I invite you to get comfortable in your chair. Feet squarely on the ground in connection with the earth. And from that place of connection with the earth, feel the energy centers on the bottoms of your feet extend out like a tree trunk, going all the way to the center of the earth. And feel what that feels like to be of the earth. Now I invite you to place your attention in the center of your head, and from that place, reach out to the sky, to the cosmos, and remember and realize and feel what it feels like to be one with the cosmos. So from this place of being of the earth and of the cosmos, I invite you to take a deep breath in through your nose and release it through your nose as well. Now I invite you to take a deep breath through your mouth and release that through your mouth. I invite you now to tense your body to the best of your ability for the count of 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and completely release it. Let's do that one more time. Tense your body to the best of your ability for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and completely release it. Now I invite you to focus your attention on your cells, on the cells of your body. And feel a bubbling up of unconditional love and deep peace from the inside of your cells, radiating out. Because we remember that unconditional love and deep peace are not found outside of ourselves. They are with us all the time. And from that place of unconditional love and deep peace, say silently to yourself, Thank you. Thank your cells. Thank you, cells. Thank you, body. Thank you, organs, for the unconditional love and deep peace that you provide. And now, I invite you to, from this place, ask your body and cells and organs for forgiveness for any time you have forgotten that unconditional love and deep peace are always present. I invite you to take another deep breath in through your nose, and this time release it through your mouth. From this place of gratitude, we sit in the silence and feel the unconditional love and deep peace that is with us right now. From this place of unconditional love and deep peace, we are now invigorated to do what is ours to do in the world today, tomorrow, and in every moment. We thank the universe, the all that is, for this time of remembrance. And from this place of gratitude, and this place of inner peace, we share the unconditional love and deep peace that is within each person, and remind everyone around us of their unconditional love and deep peace as we continue our day. And so it is.
Hello, Unity of Madison. Reverend Evin here. If you are watching this recording, Mindy and I are finishing our cruise today, and we will be pulling back into port. So I can't physically be there with you, but I can be here on this recording with you. So last week we wrapped up our 7-week book study on the Book of Joy. And so now we're kind of moving into that time frame and that phase where we just finished something, but it's not quite Advent yet. So I started thinking of things that or something I could talk about we're kind of in that in-between space. And I wanted to talk about something that has been heavily on my mind lately. And it's to do with finding commonalities between us, regardless as to, political parties and that kind of thing. So this talk isn't going to be political, but I do want to delve into the way that we perceive ourselves and perceive other people. So I want to start today by doing what I like to do, asking a question, but this one isn't really on my mind lately. The way that we perceive ourselves and perceive other people. So I want to start today by doing what I like to do, asking a question, but this one isn't too philosophical, so don't worry. But I want to start today by asking if you've ever heard of that movie. It's called Friday Night Lights. And I think it maybe originated as a book and has since evolved into a television series. And whether or not it's still on or not, I don't know. But it's called Friday Night Lights. Now, if not, it's about this high school football team and about how the kids on that team are pushed to their limits. And they're pushed to their limits because the goal isn't just about winning. It's about winning at all costs. Now, it's about winning despite injuries, physical injuries, emotional traumas. None of those things matter. Whether you're injured or not, you still got to get out there and play. Doesn't matter how emotional you're feeling or what kind of emotional trauma you're feeling. You still have to get out there and play, and you have to win. And they're told to win, and that's it. They're given no other option. You win, that's it. There's no other option. Now, one thing about this school that this story is based on, it's based on a high school that was about 20 miles from where I grew up. And it's in a neighboring town from where I grew up. And it's in a West Texas town called Odessa, Texas. Now, my school happened to be their biggest rival. So it was incredibly serious when we played each other. They were out for blood on that field. I mean, completely out for blood. And honestly, it wasn't just the two teams. It's high school football, period, out in West Texas. I have seen grown men go to punching each other over these high school football games. People yelling at each other, and it isn't overly necessarily a pretty picture when the teams out there play. But you were either one team or the other in that part of the state, and that was it. You were either for or against, period. That's it. There was no gray area. It was all black and white, no gray area, for or against. And that was what you used to define yourself. People would be like, well, hey, are you a bulldog? Are you a panther? Whatever. It's silly when you think back about it, but that's what people use to define themselves, but we still do that now, right? Whether we're in high school or whether we've ever set foot in West Texas, we still use these trivial types of things to define ourselves and to define others. Now, my intent today, like I said before, it's not to go into a political talk. My intent today is to use some examples that are very relevant for today. So let's think about political parties in our country for a moment. They're being used as an attempt to label each other, to label how American a person is or isn't, all by a political party. To label, how much or how little of a Christian someone is. To label someone as evil or not evil. And yes, I have heard that word evil specifically used in that reference, to define somebody, this political party is evil, that political party's not. It's just a ridiculous notion, But this is all based on some human manufactured political party term. And it doesn't even have to be a political party, I've witnessed similar arguments between Baptists and Catholics. Remember the Jews and the Gentiles. I mean, it goes back a long ways. It's not something that's brand new to the year 2021. But you also see it in places of work too, right? The upper management and the lower echelons tend to not commingle with each other. There's this unspoken separation between the two classes of people. Even something as small as airline flights, thinking about that on my trip, we're separated by the ticket you hold in your hand. First class sits here and gets this treatment. Coach sits there and gets this kind of treatment. And I also remember when I was in the military, as a med tech, I was once assigned the job of checking in children at a pediatrics clinic. And this man walks in one day and asks, if we have any appointments available. And, we happened to be booked that day. So I didn't want his child to go unseen. So I referred him to the acute care clinic across the way because there was no appointment necessary. And he points to the rank on his shoulder and he asked me, he says, "Do you know who I am?" And I remember he thought he could intimidate me because he happened to have the rank of captain on his sleeve, whereas I did not, And I did get a little lippy with him, I'll admit it. But I look at him, his name was Jones or whatever it was. And I looked at him, I said, "Yes, sir, you are Captain Jones. Can I walk you to the acute care clinic?" He didn't like that. But in countries of origin, we act like being born in a certain country should put us on a pedestal above certain people or above people that are born perhaps in a different country. All of these things we use to divide us, right? Just all of these things, to put classes on people, to determine who is worthy of this or that. My question has always been a question you've likely heard before. Do we not all bleed the same color blood? And why? Why do we let these human manufactured titles, statuses, and designations drive us apart? Do these things really matter in the grand scheme of things? And if not, why are we using them to create spaces between us? So I feel that it becomes extremely important to find those common spaces between us, no matter which designation, status, political party, or title that you have ever used. Because regardless of those things, we can find common ground with people who seem to be complete opposite from ourselves. My parents and I, we believe differently when it comes to a lot of things, God, politics, other views on different things. And yes, we have argued about them. We have gotten into arguments about those before. And things at time have gotten heated, like they probably have in most families. But in the end, we finally agreed that it's just absolutely not worth it. We choose instead to focus on those things that we do have in common. My mother and I, for instance, we both like old creepy ghost movies. In fact, anytime we're together, we try to cram in as many of those that we can watch as possible, as time allows on our visit. So we choose to focus on that, on those things that we do enjoy together. My father loves a good plate of Mexican food. So we enjoy that when we're together. We also choose to focus on some of the adventures that we've had together as a family, those things that made us laugh together, those things that we still remember today. Now, of course, we're not necessarily going to have those types of memories and all when we encounter people that we don't know, right? Those things that we seem to be disagreeing with, despite not knowing each other well. And I try to remind myself that no matter how different we may seem, there is always something out there that we can find in common. And there always will be that common space between us somewhere. And we don't always have to agree, or we can sometimes agree to disagree on certain things, right? We don't have to try to always convince each other that I'm right and you're wrong, or that you're right and I'm wrong. We just have to remember to disagree respectfully and to find those common spaces. Again, we all bleed the same color of blood. But it even goes deeper than the physical body, doesn't it? Trying to not get tongue-tied here. But it goes deeper than the physical body. But underneath it all, we are all spiritual. And as spiritual beings, as those spiritual beings that we are both here navigating this life, right? And while we may be taking paths that seem completely incongruent with each other, we are still taking and navigating this journey of life, each and every one of us. Maybe one of the reasons we're here is to disagree with one another and to figure out how to do it from that place of love and respect. Maybe that's part of the true journey. Maybe that is part of the path that we are meant to take together. Maybe that's one of the things that we can agree on, that we're here to see life differently and to navigate life just a little bit differently. Mindy and I last year, we attended the celebration of life for her father. And we found ourselves in the middle of this small rural Texas town. in this celebration of life in this small rural Texas church. We're singing very traditional songs while we're there that we're very much entrenched in singing about a God outside of ourselves. People from the church, including the minister, they were getting up and speaking about how her father now knows what the Lord looks like, how he knows what heaven looks like, about how he's walking and talking with this physical being called God. People were nodding their heads and they're saying yes and amen and all these types of things. And these were things that I personally thought that I had left behind when I left the Baptist church. But we found ourselves right in the midst of this all again. And I'm pretty certain there was not likely one person in that room that shared the same beliefs as Mindy and I. But those people, those very people invited Mindy and I to sit down with them at their table to eat with them. They treated us with love and respect. We laughed, we cried, we shared stories and conversations with each other, despite those differences. We found that common space between us. Another thing I like to think of are the gifts that we share with each other. The gifts along this life's journey. Several years ago, I worked for a corporation who designed tactical systems for different militaries all over the world. And one day we were told that customers would be visiting, and how during their visit to our office, we wouldn't have access to one of our break rooms. So of course, we're all curious, well, why would a customer visit not allow us access to one of our break rooms? So of course, we made it our mission to find out exactly why this customer visit would limit access to our break room. And our manager told us, they told us that their customers were Muslim. And as such, our break rooms would be transformed into a prayer room so that the Muslims could take part in their daily prayers. And at that point, I had never been exposed to Muslims really, but I was able to learn a lot about them during this time, during their visit with us. They actually stopped to answer our questions, and they shared their gift of knowledge about their beliefs and their practices and their customs. Not to mention the gift that they shared, the gift of education, on something that I had not really yet ever been exposed to. Something that initially appeared different, yet really wasn't quite so different after all. It was easy to realize and to see how often people become too wrapped up in what initially appears to be differences. And although those Muslims and others may have had different religious or spiritual practices, most of our goals are always the same, right? To live our best lives, and to live our best lives in the most moral ways that we find possible. So it really does all boil down to a willingness to remove the glasses, those glasses that we wear that often filter our world through those things that are manufactured, that are very manufactured by the human side of us. Those physical things that we've manufactured, those physical things that at the end of the day, nobody truly cares about. I'm kind of thinking that no one on their deathbed voices how they wish they'd been a better Democrat or a better Republican. I doubt anybody wishes that they'd played that game of football to win despite the cost. I doubt that any of us are going to sit there and think about, that person flew first class, I didn't. That person wore this brand name of clothes. I wish I'd had more of that brand name of clothes. It all becomes about finding those common spaces between us, those common spaces that, we share in our interconnectedness. Those common spaces that really delve within and find the love that we share for each other, the love that we all are. We up underneath this cloak, this physical body that we have, once we make our transition, we're going to return back to the spiritual realm. And it's in that spirit, in the spirit that we really actually truly are, where we can always realize that we're interconnected, and we can find those common ground despite all of the things that are in the material world. We can find that common ground despite no matter what title or designation that we've used, because we really are one. And I invite you today to remember that. I know this talk was, I didn't really use references and things like that because it's just something that's kind of been on my mind and something I just wanted to share with each and every one of you. Anyway, I hope that you have a good Sunday, and I will be back next week, back in person, and I plan on seeing you all then. And maybe can share a little bit about the cruise and find out what all you all have been up to. And anyway, have a great day. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday, and I will